Welcome to the future of money. Come with us on this journey into the world of Bitcoin, blockchain and crypto projects. You're going to meet the trailblazers. These people have changed my life and they may very well do the same for you. Welcome back, Hardforkers. Special guest with us again today. It's almost a year to the day, JIHO, since you first joined us on this channel.
It's always amazing to come on the show. I think it's a really exciting time for NFTs, right? The world is finally waking up to NFTs, right? That's also causing, I don't know, like more annoying stuff to happen, right? Like more mercenaries entering the space, more short-term thinking. But yeah, overall, right, it's like it's all good problems to have, adoption-related issues. We even saw that with Axie, right, where we had so much demand that the server had to be restructured. So yeah, it's like it's good problems to have. So yeah, you know, I just got to San Francisco. Yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to maybe, you know, meeting some Lunasians in person over the next couple of months.
Where does the U.S. rank in playership?
Well, you know, the U.S. is a large country, right? So per capita, it's like maybe not that high, but like, you know, in terms of total, it's quite high. It's, I think, like maybe 6% of our user base. Places like, I think, like the UK, like Argentina, G20 economies, I guess. It's like, yeah, there are a bunch, like, I think, like in Europe that per capita are much higher than the US.
JIHO, on that note, obviously for the ecosystem to remain healthy, we need you know, new people coming in. I'm trying to develop a community around some friends in Jamaica. They hadn't heard of the game. I'm trying to get some scholarships going there. I actually lived in India for a few years as well. So obviously we've seen an explosion in our community out of the Philippines and Venezuela. Any sort of insights into where you're seeing growth on the rest of the planet, and maybe specifically comment on India as well? I mean, we've got a huge potential market there, but is it taking off there at all?
There are a couple of countries that are maybe just 6 months behind the Philippines in terms of adoption, right? Like their numbers are where the Philippines were like 6 months ago, right? So some of these countries are places like Indonesia, Argentina, Venezuela, even Cuba. India is also growing really quickly. So yeah, I mean, we're growing everywhere across the board. And yeah,
Don't forget to shout out Thailand here. We got a couple Thai relatives.
Yeah, Thailand is actually a tougher market. They play Axie less than they should. Why? Because their language is like, I think like they have a lot of issues reading English, right? Even more than
That's
Vietnamese,
what I've experienced
right?
personally,
Because
yeah.
like in Vietnamese, when you write out Vietnamese, you actually use English letters, I guess. But Thai is its like own written thing. It's like runes or something.
Yeah, I onboarded some Thai scholars, and you know, I always tell them, like, if you want to get good at PvP, you got to know all the cards. You got to study the cards, right? And there was actually all the same documentation. It was all in Thai, the cards in Thai characters
Nice.
and stuff. So I was like,
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's up to our community. Like, that's a cool thing, is our community, they see a problem, they fix it. Why? Because as you know, as everyone knows, right, like the ecosystem is healthiest when it's growing really quickly. Like, some people are like, oh, like this is weird, like the game needs to constantly grow. But that's actually a feature. That's a feature, not a weakness to the system. Is everyone knows that the ecosystem does best when it's growing, so everyone does what they can to help the ecosystem grow. Almost all crypto is like this, right? Like, you know, Bitcoin is also like a ticking time bomb. It also needs to grow or die. Same thing with ETH. Every crypto project is like, it has a ticking time bomb of this adoption window where if they don't grow, they don't get large, they're gonna die. That's actually the harsh reality of crypto. Is that if it doesn't grow, it's gonna collapse and die. Like, that's how crypto works. That's how network effect based products work. You grow or you die. I'm not afraid to point that out.
I mean, on that note, you know, it was a year ago we first had you on the channel. Where do we need to be in a year for this to be a healthy ecosystem? What sort of facts and figures can you share with us on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like each time that we release and we hit our goals on our roadmap, right? Like, we just increase the total ceiling of potential adoption by another order of magnitude, right? So it's like, when we released Ronin, right, that allowed us to get to this another new growth curve, right? And we have other kind of 0 to 1 type products for the ecosystem that are coming, right? Like the Dex, I think, is one that people are really excited about, right? Battles V2, LAN gameplay. I think each of these basically, you know, being able to try the game and learn the game without having to spend money. These are all things that bring the growth curve to an entire new level. So yeah.
In regards to the Axie holders, do you have a breakdown of like, you know, the average, like how many Axies are in each account, right? So you could say, you know, certain percentage have 100 Axies, certain percentage have 4 Axies, certain percentage have 3 Axies. Do you have those numbers?
So the average Axie holder, on average, each account holds around 4 Axies. And it's like there are 1.2 million accounts holding Axies, and there are only around 4 million Axies, right? So it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, that's one of the reasons that, as I mentioned on Twitter yesterday, only 5% of Axies are for sale. Most Axies are somebody's first team of Axies, right? It's like, I think most people have a really emotional attachment to their first team of Axies, and that's why it's like so little, very like people have emotional attachments to these things. They love them like pets in many cases. That's also part of it. That's part of why the ecosystem works, right? If everyone was just in it to make money, they're like, you know, I don't know, there are other ways to only focus on money in crypto. So,
but you know what, JIHO, I think that's been a problem, is that this last little run, the last 3 months, has brought that element in and made it more simple for the guys to do that. You know, like the breeding programs, like you have a formula on how to do like an endless loop of breeding, right? And people are like, oh, you buy these 3, you buy doubles of them, you breed them, blah, 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 blah. You get scholars, right? And then we saw like the SLP go crazy because everybody's farming more. But that's why I was wondering about the breakdown, because like how many actual managers are there, you know, like guys that are just holding a bunch of Axies for scholarships, and then the percentage that are actually just scholarships. That would be because, you know, there's a criticism like, oh, it's like you're getting these class systems now inside Axie and like Lunacia, right? I was just wondering, I mean, I know some of the answers to this, but like, because there's lots of people that are just like exploiting it and taking the money out of the system, right? Not paying the scholars fairly, you know, multi-accounting, all that kind of stuff. So I was just wondering if there was, do you guys have talks about that? Like how to, you know, kind of break that class system a little bit?
I mean, you know, just the fact that we're talking about the Axie economy in this way, I think, is a major victory. Right? It's like it's become this real digital economy. Usually, when there's real money at stake, you have, you know, people, they take different archetypes and roles within the economy. Whenever there's money, there's potential for abuse. It's not a perfect world, right? I would say, right, there's a difference between something that's perfect and there's a difference between something that has freedom inherent to it and there's something and something that's perfect, right? In reality, freedom often causes, right? It's like freedom is responsibility. Freedom sometimes can cause, like, you know, certain interesting issues to take place, right? It can be harder to enforce equality in a freer system, right? So, yeah, it's stuff that we think about. I think, like, you know, what we need to do, or what we look at, is, are there ways that we can release features, or are there ways that we can, yeah, basically solve these issues through product design. So yeah, I would say there are ways that we can, and I think we can. You know, there are problems with, you know, managers not paying their scholars, right? That's something that we could, you know, fix on our end by releasing an official scholarship management tool. So that's something that we're looking at right now. We want to do it. We want to do that.
That's exactly what.
Yeah, we want to do that. In terms of the timetable,
I think it would help a lot. You know, like, it would standardize it. It would help onboard more people, but it also set like a standard or two. You know, like, it doesn't have to be like super restrictive, but at least, you know, there's a bit of protection for some of these scholars. Like, I've had stories of, you know, guys are just trolling the chat rooms of people looking for scholars, and the scholars are at fault too because they don't know, but they, you know, they work for 6,000 SLP, and all of a sudden the manager's like, poof, see you later. You know, like, that's a lot of time. You know, like, that's a month of work, almost more than that, right? So, just, you don't, like, there's always people exploiting each other, and it's, I don't know, what you can do about it, but everybody stays vigilant and just trying best practices, right? So.
Yeah, stuff like that is definitely sad. I want the community to remain tight-knit and full of missionaries, even though like there's so much money flowing into the ecosystem right now, right? There's a lot of opportunity and people are noticing that. But as we talked about, that kind of attracts some of the wrong people. But the thing is, like, not everybody has this long-term mentality. It's something that can be taught and trained. So what I really want is for the veterans, the long-term thinkers within the community, to pass on their ideas of compounding growth, right? Like getting 1% better every day. And I think we're starting to see that, right? Like I think each manager, each scholarship program as well, right? It's kind of their responsibility to coach and even be like kind of teachers, therapists, and many different things for their for their team members.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I try and do. You know, like one of the only things that I can do really is make sure that people understand the values of this community, and hope that people pass it down. So, yeah, I guess, you know, there are a lot of other like, you know, petty day-to-day worries, but I guess like from the highest level, yeah, my worry, the thing that I think about the most is like, how do we maintain a really tight-knit, loving community as we hit millions of users?
Part of that, I think, is, you know, like unlimited growth, right? That can happen. And it's just like, I've noticed myself with my scholarship, I've had to cap it like at 150, right? And then now with the way that the PvP thing has changed, the SLP earning, the last 2 weeks have just been like, boom, like talking the scholars and improving teams and like just so much Axie movement and like tweaking, and the top scholars were doing little workshops, you know, like.
I would say like it is a little bit sad. It is a little bit sad for, you know, people who really, I don't know, they really loved adventure mode, right? Doing the same thing like day after day. The thing is, right, like, yeah, PvP, right? Like a lot of people, they were kind of hiding from it. And PvP
Yep,
is
totally.
like, that's where the skill based aspect of the game is located. So, you know, long term, it's not sustainable for us to just have everyone, right, like doing the same thing, right? Everyone is grinding the same amount every single day, doing the same exact thing. That's not a healthy ecosystem, right? Like people should get variable amounts of SLP based on their skill, based on how much effort they put into it, based on the equipment that they bring into battle as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the adventure mode was getting overwhelmed with bots. You know, hence your move to take the daily quest payouts down or halve them.
But the adventure mode as it was also causing people to act like bots.
Yeah, exactly, right? When one casual plays against another casual, right, and they're having a good time because the other person is at their skill level, that's value being created. That's a fun experience. We had a big problem where the amazing PvP players were playing Arena, and everyone else was playing only Adventure, right? So if anyone who was a casual went to Arena, they were playing against the people who were super hardcore about Arena. Now, because people are more incentivized to go into Arena from Adventure, the casuals have at least a better chance of playing against each other, playing against someone at their skill level, right? So, you know, one of the big problems with the old system is like people, yeah, they were afraid of Arena because when they went in, they got stomped because of the way that the system was structured. Now the system is structured so that, yeah, the top players, they try and rank up and they try and, like, you know, go to climb to the top of the ladder, and more casuals are, you know, queuing with each other at that, you know, 1200, 1300 kind of like base ranking area.
JIHO, a personal question here. We had you on the channel a year ago. You know, I think you're probably one of the most well-known guys in the entire blockchain space now. What's that like? How are you handling that?
Top 50 crypto influencer, NFT influencer. Nice. Congrats on that.
Well,
yeah.
is it congrats? I mean, how's it affected you personally? I mean, I'm sure it's a hell of a lot to take on here. What are your thoughts on that?
I've been just happy that Axie has been growing, and we've made a lot of dreams come true over the last year. We've helped a lot of people. So obviously that comes with more responsibility, more spotlight. Oh yeah, it can be right. Like it can be difficult to be held to this, I don't know, almost impossible standard or ideal in people's minds, right? You kind of feel like you have to be perfect, or you have like, I don't know, haters, you know, kind of attacking you. But that's all, you know, that's all part of it's all part of the territory, I guess.
I've seen the tweets lately, but what's been the thing that has had the biggest backlash, and what's your reaction to that? Can you talk us through that a wee bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you know, people get really obsessed with SLP economics and of like the short-term movements of it. But yeah, I think like, and it is I guess a challenging aspect to balance. One thing that I'll say though is that, right, like, yeah, the full effects of the change will not be seen immediately. Why? Because it's like there's a 14-day claiming kind of what's it called, delay, right? So yesterday, like, you know, the amount minted versus burned seemed like much more reasonable. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Like, I don't know, like I think people have been like freaking out about the Axie economy for 4 years. But I think like compared, right, like I think we're quite agile with our policies. So yeah, you know, there are a lot of people who focus on that kind of stuff. The day-to-day fluctuations in SLP, right? I don't think that's necessarily too healthy, just mentally for them. But yeah, I can understand, right? It's a lot for a lot of people. It's their livelihood, so we also need to have empathy.
For sure, because, you know, like you can see in the scholarships and the tracking tools, the averages change, right? But what I've seen happen is there's more separation now. Like everybody was kind of earning about the same, right? The really good scholars were definitely earning more, but now they've just like next leveled it, right? And then the ones that were really casual but still earning a fairly decent amount, they're like, boom, they've really dropped. So like, you know, it's a process of going through and raising up the lowest teams and figuring out why. Is it the player? Is it just luck? Or is it the equipment? You know, is it the training, right? So it's really, you know, there's a much more structured training process, right? Because you can get away with
this is the evolution of a digital economy, right? Like it can't be so idealistic that it doesn't work. Like I am very, like, I don't know, I believe in free markets. I believe in meritocracy. I don't believe in everyone getting the same thing no matter what. That's, you know, like some people are like, oh, like this is contrary to, you know, what you say your ideals are. Like, I'm not sure if I've ever, like, you know, I believe that, yeah, people should get, you know, there should be variable outcomes based on variable inputs, variable outputs based on variable inputs. And yeah.
Are you talking about nerfing crits? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, people get upset about crits. But what I'll say is, like, Axie is a game of long-term percentages, right? Just like, you know, poker, right? Like it takes hundreds of games
you gotta put the work in, man.
It takes hundreds of games for the best players to, you know, to manifest their advantages. That's also good, right? It's like if the better player won 100% of the time, the game might not be as fun, and there might not be as much adoption. It like for a lot of players, right? Like having that ability to sometimes, you know, take down your hero, like that's fun. That's fun. That's also how something like poker works, right? It's just still a skill-based game, right? But so you're trying to win, you know, 51. If you win 51% of the time, you're golden, right? I think in Axie it's more like, right, the top players, they won 56% of the time.
Can I ask you about my favorite part of the game? Breeding. I feel like it's genetic warfare going on, you know, with the meta. And you had, like, you know, everybody that jumped in and they did all kinds of breeding, like didn't care what they were breeding, and they're just dumping stuff now. There's so many good deals for good meta. Like if you have ideas for cards and, like, you know, how to, like, that's what's happening. It just seems like everybody's like, oh, new combo, new team, like new meta. And then, like,
it's an arms race, right? Because
like,
this is also like the stakes are now higher. The stakes are not higher for PvP, right? It's like the SLP generation curve, I guess, per team is now like, right, quite distinct, and that's the
But
way
you're
that it
seeing
should be.
that
Right?
separation. Yeah, you're seeing that separation in the Axie prices too, right? Where now the really good game Axies are like, wow, and then everything else is just getting lower. But there's so many good deals in that lower price stuff, like the floor stuff,
Yeah,
because
that also
people
makes it more
like don't really
accessible
know.
for
Yep.
for people who want to do the research and get in. Right? I just saw that I just saw that video from Elijah where I think he spent point 0.3 ETH and put together a team that could compete at the top of the right. He used it on his main account. He didn't like climb from the bottom, and it was competing, right? So I think right, like when people freak out, you're like chaos, right? Like is always chaos always creates opportunity. So yeah, it's all healthy stuff in my opinion. I haven't like yeah, there's gonna be volatility in any economy. Actually, like this is the last right, like the last I don't know year has been an Axie has been like characterized by remarkably like little like I don't know volatility to the downside or anything like that, right? It's just been like constant adoption. Yeah, that's actually not good. It's actually not necessarily good to always be like that because then people like they don't appreciate the good times if there are no like right little bumps in the road. What made our community was the bear market, like going through like bad times together. So yeah, I think like Axie is a very resilient system. Like good times are good for us. Bad times, complex times, also have benefits.
Well, you guys have like achieved basically any sort of milestone in the past like 3 or 4 months, like the $1 billion in volume. You're number 4, number 5 on the burning of 1559 with a bridge, which is insane. Achieve like past the million daily active users. Like the numbers like speaks for themselves. With this, you also got a tons of issues that came along. The server that went down on the game, the energy that was not working properly, the marketplace that was not loading, and so on and so on. And you guys have like admitted that like you were obviously hiring to trying to like solve those problems, and the vast majority of them are like being solved. I'm not sure in like a super good way or in like in a patch way. That's like would be first question. And the second one is obviously like that ratio between like fixing things, the base level, between like developing new things like the decks, all the new models, the more utility of the SLPs and so on. How is going right now on inside in the company? Like, are people like split between 2 and 2? Are people focusing more on the new things instead of the fixing the old problems? How is that going on right now?
Yeah, I think with exponential growth come new good problems to have, right? Like I think we've done a pretty good job at resolving those issues. I think yeah, it was maybe a little bit of a wake up call to our engineers that they need to all constantly be thinking about scaling the game server. They should never sleep on that or assume some like linear level of growth. So yeah. I think one of our luxuries is that we have we have a lot of engineers. We have deep talent pools of engineers that we can hire from because of like who Trung is, who Andy is, right? They're kind of now known as like they're the two most famous engineers in their generation in Vietnam. So it's like any young really strong Vietnamese engineer developer coming up in Vietnam, like they want to come work with us. So yeah, we have these really deep talent pools, and I think that helps, right? So we've been able to scale our development team, our engineers. So yeah, we do have we have teams that are working on different things, right? We have a team working on the DEX, a team working on AXS staking or Axis staking, a team working on Battles V2, a team working on land. And then we also have, people who are, working on scaling the current stuff. So yeah, I think that's just something to be cognizant of. But I think it plays to our strength because we do have a team that's kind of been able to scale up and been in place for years. I think like when people don't realize how difficult it is for like to build up a team and for that team to like build trust with each other and understand how to work together. We have, I think, like, yeah, the best engineers in NFTs in that respect.
Spoiler, I still have like some of my Axies that I bought like 4 months ago that are still unloading and I can't use in the game. So if you want to have like a look into that, I would appreciate
We have the
that.
help. We have the help desk now, so you can submit a request.
Fair enough. Next part is obviously like about one of the topic that I thought that it was super cool. You guys have like launched the Esports initiative. You are pushing like into the Twitch ecosystem. The numbers on Twitch has been like growing as well. And you have announced now that you have like all the tournaments till the end of the year. I think I don't remember the exact number, like 50,000 AXS or something like that in prices. Do you want to like describe a little bit more, talk a little bit more on that phase? Like if someone is interested in organizing a tournament, if someone is interested in participating in that, are you going to like stream those tournaments as well? Or is going to be like up to the people that are organizing that and kind of like give a little bit of an overview on that?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so Andrew is doing a really awesome job pushing forward our esports program and making sure that the world of competitive Axie continues to evolve. Yeah, I think there are 31 events that we've agreed to fund. I think those events each have their own like marketing plan, and we'll help them when possible. We're not going to probably personally stream them ourselves. Those events they might have found streamers or casters themselves and yeah, but we'll help like kind of promote and things like that. We do like have our eyes on, right, like hosting our own kind of larger tournaments that we, right, like personally kind of host or find casters for and kind of become like the official Sky Mavis kind of supported tournament where we kind of go all in with our resources. I think this is the latest initiative, right? It kind of speaks, it's like in line with our community-driven ethos where, right, we take many small bets among the community and see who does amazing things.
On the community part, you mentioned before that like you're looking at, for example, developing tools for the scholarship, and on the other side now you're obviously like pushing the resources into the esports and so on. Does that mean that Sky Mavis will basically start looking up on possible acquisition of people that are developing like open source projects and stuff like that, or is that like not on the radar?
Everything is on the table. I think one of the things that we're really excited about, and I think our community really wants, is to be able to build stuff on top of Ronin in the future, right? Like, there's some community members, right? They want to build their own stuff, if that makes sense. Like, they're very entrepreneurial. Right now, like, right, it's like you can start a scholarship. There are different things. You can kind of start like your own content brand within Axie. But if you kind of want to, like, I don't know, be a developer and build some really intense product, it's a little bit difficult, right? So that's something that I want to unleash more of in the future.
Is there like any timeline when it's going to be possible for people to build on top of Ronin, or like having access to like multiple official APIs and stuff like that?
This is something that we want to do periodically because it can cause issues. It can cause issues with the blockchain as well. Like I think like Polygon and BSC or whatever, they face lots of issues. There's also lots of hacks and stuff, right? Our community is super new to crypto, like 50% of them. So I think like there are benefits to being a little bit more careful and slow rather than just like going like full from the start. And it also allows us to kind of work more closely. It's a little bit of a different approach, but I think we always, one of our benefits or one of our advantages is that we kind of do things that are a little bit like, maybe contrarian or different from the way the other teams are thinking.
Jumping on a different topic, couple of questions from like the community. So the first one was about like the free Axie, when the free team is going to be available. Does those teams are going to be able to farm and earn SLPs, or is that just going to be like to testing out the teams and no earning?
Yeah, it would
is gonna
just be for
in place
testing
that?
out and having fun with the game. They wouldn't be able to earn anything. That would also, right, it would cause issues with bots. Like, I talked to the CEO of a large game, and one of the largest games of all time, actually, and he said that, yeah, in order to basically deal with bots, like, you have to, one of the easiest ways is to make it so that they can't just start and start farming.
So tagging on that, because you guys have announced that obviously the reduction of the SLP is based also on the fact that a lot of people are using bots. And last time that we spoke, you were mentioning that the banning of the multi-accounting was going fairly good. That you were comfortable that, you know, you cracked the equation of banning people that were like bypassing the rules and so on. Is there anything that you can share on how it's going, like, with the fight on the bots? Obviously, it's an ongoing, always thing that will never end.
Yeah.
Like, you catch up, they're gonna try to bypass and so on.
We just discovered like, oh, there was some other way that people could inject code and and use bots. Yeah, like, but we just patched that, so it's like, yeah, we always need to be making sure that, you know, and we're working with outside security firms now, as well, who are like basically trying to run bots and finding, yeah, basically finding loopholes. But yeah, that was just also like one of the ways to do it is just like you make the bottable behavior less incentivized relative to like the human to human skilled interactions.
You did increase the difficulty level on PvE on this coming season with the last update, or was that my impression and that didn't happen?
I think they added more HP to some of the monsters.
Okay.
You were talking about bots and stuff, but actually in my scholarship, I had a couple guys telling me, boss, I just fought this guy. He had like unlimited energy and 4-card combos all the time. And then they were sharing around these images of these Facebook Axies that, like, they're hacks. They have unlimited energy and turns and card play. And I had 2 or 3 scholars say, yeah, I experienced that. Have you heard anything about that? And I have no idea how it would work, but it's like a hack inside the NFT.
I don't think it's it doesn't sound possible to me. Like, yeah. I think, like, you know, some people, they don't understand, like, oh, like that some people save energy for the end of the game. Yeah. Right? They don't count energy, they don't count cards, they don't understand, like, you know, zero cost cards too. So.
But this is a quite advanced scholar, and we talked about that for sure. And he said, no, boss, this was like impossible. I don't know what happened. And then another scholar confirmed it. So I was just wondering if you'd heard anything about that. That's funny. And then they showed an ad, some guy selling it on Facebook, right? Like, what? So it just seemed like a weird thing. I had one other question kind of regarding, like, I've been around for a year now, and there's been no breeding events. Is there another breeding event planned?
Yeah, breeding events are really fun, right? And it's all a great way to get, like, the SLP supply, like, burnt real quick. Yeah, it's something that we have in our arsenal. Yeah, I would like to do one. Yeah, I would like to do one.
A 5 million Axie celebration. It's coming up.
Maybe. I mean, I'm excited for, right, like, I can't wait to also upgrade our Axies, upgrade my Axies. Like, you know, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna be buying, like, crafting materials like crazy, because I'm not gonna have time to play. So I'm just gonna buy stuff, use it to upgrade my Axies. Like, to me that's gonna be so much fun.
You already know which ones you're gonna upgrade?
Yeah, I'm gonna upgrade. I mean, I have to upgrade my Mystics. I have like 40 Mystics or something. So.
Oh, you're gonna be able to upgrade Mystics too? Oh my god!
That's what I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna focus all my crafting ingredients on my Mystics. So, yeah.
What Chad is gonna craft 2 Mystics together?
Yeah, like, yeah. I love my Mystic Axies. So.
JIHO, question. You're the growth lead, and clearly you've been amazingly successful in that role. To what degree is part of that role sort of looking at what else is happening in the play to earn space and NFT gaming? Do you consider other projects sort of threats? I mean, how do you look at what's the strategy and sort of business model around your specific role with Axie and those terms?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of, you know, being the growth lead, we would be nowhere without the community, right? The community has done so much. So any perceived success that I have, really also needs to be given to the community. In terms of looking at other play-to-earn games, I'm excited for, one of our biggest problems is that we're like the only thing on the market right now that's live. That's actually kind of an issue because we have to kind of be our own funnel, if that makes sense, right? So I would love for other play-to-earn games to be out there, like attracting users to the place, and I think that people are going to be playing multiple play-to-earn games, right? It's like some people are going to be playing play-to-earn games 24 hours per day. Each system probably going to have like some energy limit or energy system as well, right? Where maybe you can only play 4 to 5 hours and then you maximize your earnings and you move on to the next one maybe. So yeah, I think like play to earn games, they're going to be really synergistic with each other. I don't look at competitors. I would love to see other experiments in terms of like features and mechanics tried out in smaller games, and then we could take inspiration from that and roll them out to our users. So yeah, I'm excited.
You don't have to answer this, but is there anything else, any projects out there that really impress you massively? Or difficult question, I know, but
I'm an investor in 9 Chronicles, and so yeah, I think that project, they've been grinding for a long time in Korea, so I like them. And then
that project has the one up on Axie. The decentralization, right? They focused on decentralization first and gameplay second, it seems like. Get the infrastructure of decentralization. It's interesting to see both projects develop with the same goals, but kind of different approaches, what they prioritize first. So
yeah, the idea of like the players running the nodes or whatever, it's an interesting concept. So yeah, I'm watching that aspect of it as well.
But it has limited growth a lot, I think.
Decentralization.
They need you over there, man. They need a growth lead over there, like you would. The onboarding and invite codes and there's a couple of things that make it a lot harder to bring people on.
Those are more so product things, right? I mean, all I can do is I can talk to the product guys as well and the engineering guys, but yeah, I guess the thing is, right, like with crypto, right, we talk about decentralization, but it's important to choose where you decentralize strategically, right? If you decentralize everywhere at the same time, then it's going to be difficult. So it's like, okay, we choose to decentralize the player market, right? Like 95% of the value in game goes to the player base, right? This is an aspect of decentralization that doesn't even require a blockchain, if that makes sense. So it's like blockchain is actually just one aspect of decentralization, right? It's just like data storage, right? But there's also decentralization of ownership and value, which only needs an ERC20, for example, right? There are also products that run on servers that have an ERC20, and because they have an ERC20 that distributes value to their community, they actually have like a very decentralized kind of ethos and community. So yeah, it's just about making strategic decisions about where you decentralize.
I have a bit of a question connected to that about, you mentioned like the fees on the marketplace, and like one of the biggest strengths of Axie is that the treasury that they have built up of ETH and AXS, and once the staking comes live, right, you're going to be able to stake and earn some of the fees off the marketplace, right? But like the amount of growth and how much sales and volume that there's a giant pile sitting there, right? And it's not going to be like one big distribution, right? People will just, when the staking starts, they'll start earning on those next ones, right? So has there been a plan or discussion of what is going to happen with all that treasury fundage?
Yeah, so basically that distribution of the treasury to stakers likely won't be within the launch scope of the staking dashboard. I think it's also necessary to have that enabled through a vote or strategically. So basically by turning on the fee switch. I think the good thing, right, is that we already have the treasury live. Those fees are already accruing to the treasury, even though the fee switch hasn't been activated. It's a little bit in contrast to something like Uniswap, where there is no treasury accumulation of anything and the fee switch hasn't been activated. If that makes sense. That actually can even rush or put pressure on a team to enable the fee switch if enabling the fee switch and treasury value accrual are connected. So I think I really like our approach, where I don't think that there's going to be a huge rush to turn on the fee switch, because people just see the treasury growing and capturing value. Actually, like, taking that value is not necessarily something that needs to be optimized for. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
Okay, well, so let's wrap it up with what are you most excited about? What's coming up next? Well, what in everybody in Axie Land, what's next thing to get excited about?
Yeah, so I'm really excited for the decks. I think that's going to get us to a new level of user experience in the ecosystem, and I think it's gonna help a lot build liquidity around stuff like Axis and SLP, and make it easier to kind of cash out, cash in on Ronin. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited about what I'm seeing with Battles V2 in the background happening here at HQ. And yeah, I'm also seeing some awesome progress with regards to land. So yeah, I think we're kind of firing on all fronts.
So in one of your tweets, you mentioned that Axie now is like, the community is on a size that you can take up bigger challenges, like for example, a movie or merchandising or debit cards and all of those things. Out of that entire list, is there one in particular that it's really too hard for you, or that it's really on your interest, or they're all the same and equally important?
I think like going into financial services is like a debit card and credit card is gonna be really cool. Yeah, like I would love to see an Axie movie. I think merchandise is really gonna help our community a lot and grow. So.
But you want an Axie and a credit card first.
Axie credit card, man. Totally.
Yeah, I mean
awesome.
that might take some time. It is always difficult when you try and hook up like a blockchain or whatever to legacy stuff. So.
Yeah, too many issues there, man. That's like, Stefano knows all too well about that. And he likes to let us know about why not to touch certain projects because of all those reasons.
I know. That's problem of living in Singapore, that you have 25 options and then 12 months after you're done with one, and that one works very bad. So yeah, that's a big challenge on its own, that's for sure.
Can we ask you, how do you crypto cash out? Are you you still have a bank account?
I didn't have one for a long time during the bear market, but yeah, I guess I have one now.
Okay, thanks for your time, mate. Always a pleasure.
Good luck. Take it easy.
Take care.
Catch you
Bye,
later.
guys. Much love.